It is a revolutionary world that we all live in. And thus, as I have said in Latin America, and in Asia, and in Europe, and in my own country, the United States, it is the young people who must take the lead. Thus, you and your young compatriots everywhere have had thrust upon you a greater burden of responsibility than any generation that has ever lived. There is, said an Italian philosopher, nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. Yet this is the measure of the task of your generation, and the road is strewn with many dangers. First is the danger of futility, the belief there is nothing one man or one woman can do against the enormous array of the world's ills, against misery, against ignorance, or injustice and violence. Yet many of the world's great movements of thought and action have flowed from the work of a single man. A young monk began the Protestant Reformation. A young general extended an empire from Macedonia to the borders of the earth. And a young woman reclaimed the territory of France. It was a young Italian explorer who discovered the New World, and 32-year-old Thomas Jefferson, who proclaimed that all men are created equal. Give me a place to stand, said Archimedes, and I will move the world. These men move the world, and so can we all. Few will have the greatness to bend history, but each of us can work to change a small portion of the events, and in the total, all of these acts will be written in the history of this generation.
This is a small group of people who have shared a vision in common.
Los Angeles has always played an interesting role in the film noir genre. The city was home to hundreds of film noirs in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and to this day, the mass majority of modern film noir being released takes place in and around Los Angeles. In the earliest days of the genre, LA was set as a location out of convenience and necessity. It was cheap and efficient to shoot in the backlots or on location around the city, and changing the city would just be a burden. In addition, the works of Chandler, Kane, and Hammett, which inspired the film noir movement, were almost always set around Los Angeles. However, as the genre solidified itself as one of the cornerstones of American cinema, the location began to take on a meaning of its own.
Shooting on location, it's a must for film noir because film noir is reality.
It was a place of hope, the embodiment of the American dream, a place where anyone can become anything. Many characters of film noir are aspiring actors, screenwriters, and models, all trying to find success in the city. However, Los Angeles also has a darker side, one that author John G. Kowalty describes as big business, politics, crime, and the whole underlying social and environmental structure of Los Angeles in his paper discussing Chinatown. Essentially a place that, from the outside looking in, appears as though anything is possible. However, when characters land there, they find that it was all an exaggeration, a dream, an idea of something that isn't actually there.
Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
But film noir's treatment of Los Angeles is really just a microcosm of its overarching message, the illusion of something good, which reveals itself to be much worse than what anyone could have possibly imagined.
This general sense of jeopardy in life, which is what exists in all film noir, then it's a correct representation of the anxiety caused by the system.
Film noir's rise to popularity dates back to the late 1930s and early 1940s. Following the Great Depression and the Second World War, the mindset in America was one of success. After a victory overseas, the nation's economy was growing stronger than ever, and with it came hope. The archetypal beginning of many film noirs is one of ambition. Our protagonist has an idea or is lured into a plot to become successful.
What do you think I was, anyway? The guy that walks into a good-looking dame's front parlor and says, "Good afternoon, I sell accident insurance on husbands"? You got one that's been around too long, one you'd like to turn into a little hard cash?
And this cuts to the roots of film noir's message about the American dream. Things never go as planned. Characters may hope to achieve something great, to find success, either financially or in some other way, but always come up short. There are forces acting upon them that make them give up their ambitions and instead start living a life of normalcy. That is, if they get lucky. After their American dream starts to fall apart, many try to leave. Whether characters start out wanting to raise their position in society or just want money, eventually the thirst for more takes over, and they realize that in order to become more successful, they'll need to hurt others, either financially or literally. Through this, film noir reveals that success and wealth comes at a cost, the corruption of self. Almost every character we see throughout the entire genre who has reached conventional success is there because they have sold themselves down, traded their morality for material goods. Film noir reveals that it is possible to reach success, but that success comes at a very steep cost.
Well, in the end, he got himself a pool. Only the price turned out to be a little high.
You let him set up house for you.
All right. He bought me my clothes and my car, and a lease on a decent place to live in. Things I've never had in my whole life.
If you'd known where his dough came from, would you still have taken it?
Money isn't dirty, just people.
How's he getting in touch with you?
He'd be crazy to try, and you know it.
Why? It was just a lucky break that we got a line on you. He probably figures you're clear.
Maybe he will try. I suppose my phone's tapped.
Don't need permission, made my decision to test my limits. Guess it's my business, God is my witness. Stop what I finished. Don't need no holder, taking control of this kind of moment. I'm locked and loaded, completely focused. My mind is open. All that you got, gonna skin. Oh my God, don't you stop, boy. Something about you makes me feel like a dangerous woman. Something about you makes me wanna do things that I shouldn't. Something about nothing to proving. I'm bulletproofing, know what I'm doing. The way we're moving, like introducing us to a new thing. I wanna save it for later. The taste of flavor, 'cause I'm a taker, 'cause I'm a giver. It's only nature. I live for danger. All that you got, skin to skin. Oh my God, don't you stop. Something about you makes me feel like a dangerous woman. Something about you makes me wanna do things that I shouldn't. Something about you. I just wanna be like that. Bad guys underneath like that. You know how I'm feeling inside. Something about, I just wanna be like that. Bad guys underneath like that. You know how I'm feeling inside. Something about.
What happens to Harry if he's caught?
He killed a man.
And the 200,000?
What do you think?
I think it's a lot of money. Right now, Harry's got it.
That's right.
Something about you makes me feel like a dangerous woman. Something about you makes me wanna do things that I shouldn't. Something about I just wanna be like that. Like that. You know how I'm feeling inside.
on home.
Why?
I wouldn't know. Go on before I start thinking about it.
Yeah, there's something about you, boy. Yeah, there's something about you.
I don't want to go, Paul. Not yet.
Everyone in the world has gone to bed one night or another with fear or pain or loss or disappointment. And yet each of us has awakened, arisen, somehow made our ablution, seen other human beings, and said, "Morning, how are you? Fine, thanks, and you?" It's amazing. Wherever that abides in the human being, there is the nobleness of the human spirit, despite it all, black and white, Asian, Spanish, Native American, pretty, plain, thin, fat, vowed or celibate, we rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just 'cause I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like suns and like moons, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just 'cause I laugh. As if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words. You can cut me with your lies. You can kill me with your hatefulness. But just like life, I'll rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh, does it come as a surprise that I dance? As if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs. Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, naturally, there I go rising.
What did you just see? What do you think did you just see? What do you think did I intend for you to see? And what do you think did I intend for you to feel when watching this? Did you feel anything at all? Does it matter? What's definite is you saw a man and a woman moving together in space and time. The type of movement, as some of you may know, may be referred to as contemporary dance. The arrangement of movement in a certain order, with a certain intention and in harmony with a certain piece of music, may be called choreography. As a choreographer, you need to have a strong curiosity about the human body and its diverse possibilities to move and to think about movement. On top of that, you need to be very curious about the world and might also want to have a strong drive to tell stories through movement or engage in something that really matters to you. An opinion, an idea, a question, a critique. Something that moves you in any sort of way. But if that's all the things you need to be as a choreographer, what do you need to know as a person watching contemporary dance? I might have studied dance for years, and I might have read every book about dance there is, and I might be able to pretend to know everything there is to know about the history and the presence of the dancing human being. But most of you most likely haven't, and most of you most likely don't. So does that not completely isolate you from me when watching contemporary dance? Does that not completely isolate my art form from your understanding? But why then create contemporary dance at all, if not for the whole world to see it and to understand it and to fall in love with it? All I know is that when I create work, I most definitely want the whole world to see it, and at best I want any person from any sort of background to feel something when watching it. All the while, it doesn't really matter to me what exactly people feel. It might be joy or sadness, fascination or dislike, maybe even boredom or the simple appreciation of beauty. But whatever it is, I hope it is something. When people try to describe what dance is, they often refer to it as a language that's able to cross boundaries, a language that's common to us all. The human being, the human body, the human emotions, and the human movement in space and time. But why then? Why do so many people coming to my performances come to me afterwards and say, Suse, I really like your work, or Suse, I really didn't like your work, but I didn't understand it. What would you have gained from any prior information given? And most importantly, what would you have missed? So, does it even matter what the choreographer wants to tell you if the interpretation and the feelings about the work are allowed to be as diverse as possible? So is the key to understanding contemporary dance to maybe not try to understand it at all? Well, this is what I can tell you, and I might be completely wrong. Contemporary dance is whatever you want it to be. Open your eyes and your mind, and you might find something in it. And you might find that you understand much more about it than you ever thought you would. I will invite you to look at it with all the knowledge that you've just gained, and I will also invite you to look at it with your mind as a tabula rasa, and whatever you do and whatever you see, nothing you will see or feel is wrong or right. And I will not tell you what will happen in the end, and maybe you will never know, but you can try to find it in your heart to see something in it and feel something about it. And that whatever you feel, it will be your reality, and it will be true. And it will be what you see and what you will make of it.
Rhiannon rings like a bell through the night, and wouldn't you love to love her? She rules her life like a bird in flight, and who will be her lover? All your life you've never seen a woman And he says, Rihanna, stay. And he says, I still cry out for you. Don't leave me. Don't leave me.
Looking out for love in the night so still. Oh, how build you a kingdom in that house on the hill. Looking out for love, big, big love. You said that you love me and that you always will. Oh, you made me to keep you in that house on the hill. Looking out for love, big, big love.
Anything close to an innovator. They called me different, they called me weird, they called me a couple other words I can't say on TV. So thankfully my mother taught me that being different was a good thing. That being different meant you could actually make a difference. If you're a young person like I used to be, and you're at home watching and you're being called weird, or you're being called different, or whatever the hell you're being called, I'm here tonight to tell you, your critics do not count. Their words will fade. You won't.
Be yourself, embrace your quirks, embrace your weirdness. I was a very, very, very weird child. Very weird child. Even if you have quirks and weirdness, you shouldn't be worried about that. I think the people that I went to school with were the most normal and were the coolest when we grew up. Like, there's no one in the world that can be a better you than you. And if you try to be the cool kid from class, you'll end up being very boring. Be yourself, embrace your quirks. Being weird is a wonderful thing.
Will you follow dogma? Or will you be original? Will you choose a life of ease or a life of service and adventure? Will you wilt under criticism or will you follow your convictions? Will you bluff it out when you're wrong or will you apologize? Will you guard your heart against rejection? Or will you act when you fall in love?
Individuality and just appreciating like the way I think and the way I feel and having, letting that have some value and worth. So it's betting on yourself and betting on your difference and appreciating the rarity of how you think.
Dig deep down and ask yourselves, who do you want to be? Not what, but who. And I'm talking about not what your parents and teachers want you to be, but you. I'm talking about figuring out for yourselves what makes you happy. No matter how crazy it may sound to the people. We have so many rules in life about everything. I say break the rules, not the law, but break the rules. The agent also complained about my accent. He says no one ever became a star with an accent like that, especially not with a German accent. And yes, I can imagine with your name, Arnold Schwarzenschnitzel or whatever the name is, on a billboard. Yeah, that's going to draw a lot of tickets and sell a lot of tickets. You're right. So this is the kind of negative attitude they had, but I didn't listen to those rules. And then when I did Terminator, I'll be back. Became one of the most famous lines in movie history, all because of my crazy accent. Now think about it, the things that the agent said would be totally a detriment and would be impossible for me to get a job, all of a sudden became an asset for me. All of those things, my accent, my body and everything. So it just shows you never listen that you can't do something.
Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary.
I read a thing that actually speaking in front of a crowd is considered the #1 fear of the average person. I found that amazing. #2 was death. #2. That means to the average person, if you have to be at a funeral, you would rather be in the casket than doing the eulogy.
This thing on?
It's a weird internal exploration, but that's what
becoming a stand-up comedian is. It's an exploration into the self. You must explore and define yourself. And to the extent that you succeed at that is, I think, the extent to which you succeed as a comedian.
Would you please welcome to the Comedy Store, ladies and gentlemen, performances by Sam Kinison, Jerry Seinfeld, Sandra Bernhardt, Jim Carrey, Richard Pryor.
Oscar Levant said that ballet is the fairies' football. I said, yeah. Maybe you get a ballet choreographer working with a football team. All right, everybody line up, everyone, line up. My God, a smorgasbord. Look at this. All right, who's the tight end? Fabulous. You stay right there. I love you. Okay. All right, what I want you to do, a simple pattern, everybody. Run long, do this, attempt to catch the ball. Everyone else pile on him for as long as possible. Referees, throw the flags, throw the flags, throw the flags. I love it, I love it.
Remember,
Your first goal as a stand-up comedian is a 5-minute routine.
Bush is amazing. He's against abortion, but for capital punishment. Spoken like a true fisherman. Throw him back, kill him when they're bigger.
A 5-minute routine consists of 4 subjects, 4 different subjects.
A friend of mine has a car phone. He has an answering machine on his car phone. The message is, "Hi, I'm home right now."
3 jokes within each subject.
So I can't come to the phone. But if you leave your name and number, I'll call you when I'm out.
So if you do the math, I'll hold, go ahead. That's 12 jokes or 12 laughs in a 5-minute routine.
No respect at all. No respect at all. No respect at all. I hear about the Polish guy won a gold medal, he had a bronze. Oh, I met a guy last week with a problem, half Polish, half Italian. He wants to beat someone up, he forgot who. I got a cousin who's gay. I always kid him, I tell him in the family tree, he's in the fruit section. I hear about the Polish guy left his keys in the car, had to go to Hanger to get his family out. I got my own problems, I'm half Jewish and half Japanese. In fact, I was circumcised at Benihana's. And she was fat too, she got in a scale, a card came out and said, one at a time. That's the story of my life. No respect. I don't get no respect at all. Are you kidding? No respect from anyone.
And I have a lot of self-esteem, which is amazing because I'm probably somebody who wouldn't necessarily have a lot of self-esteem as I am considered a minority. And if you are a woman, if you're a person of color, if you are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, if you're a person of size, if you're a person of intelligence, if you're a person of integrity, then you are considered a minority in this world. If you don't have self-esteem, you will hesitate before you do anything in your life. You will hesitate to go for the job you really want to go for. You will hesitate to ask for a raise. You will hesitate to call yourself an American. You will hesitate to defend yourself when you are discriminated against because of your race, your sexuality, your size, your gender. You will hesitate to vote. You will hesitate to dream. For us to have self-esteem is truly an act of revolution. And our revolution is long overdue. I urge you all today, especially today, in these times of terrorism and chaos, to love yourselves without reservation and to love each other without restraint. Unless you're into leather.
Here I am trying to impress these judges. I start with the oldest phrase in the history of showbiz video. Something completely forgettable. What I'm trying to do is be remembered up here. I gotta go now. Y'all take it easy. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everybody. Good night. Thank you. Give money. Thanks for coming. Good night.
God bless America.
There's a lot that the kids need to know. A letter to a person on their first day here. Today, over 360,000 babies will be born, and you are one of them. Welcome, this is the world. It's a pretty cool place. There's lots to see, smell, there's corn dogs. I'm getting ahead of myself. There's just so much to do. Singing, dancing, oh, and laughing. Laughing's the best. It's especially great when you laugh and milk comes out of your nose. But only if you just have milk. Otherwise, it's just gross. Some days gross things will happen. Some days awesome things will happen. Some days you'll get ice cream. And some days you won't. Some days your kite will fly high. Some days it gets stuck in the tree. It's just how it is here. There's plenty of reasons to dance. You just gotta look for them. Don't worry though, you won't be doing this alone. You're gonna meet lots of people here. Some of them will be really nice, and some won't be. It's not that they can't be, it's just, maybe they're just having a bad day. Being a person is hard sometimes. You should give people high fives just for getting out of bed. Oh, high fives, I forgot to explain that. How do I explain this? It's high fives are like hitting someone who is your friend. That's really bad. Just treat everybody like it's their birthday, even if they don't deserve it. Because we all mess up sometimes. The biggest mess up, not forgiving each other's mess ups. Maybe you'll be a teacher. Maybe you'll be president. Maybe you'll cure every disease ever. You might even see the Grand Canyon, swim in the ocean. Oh, this is so much. It's a lot. Try this. Take a breath. Amazing, it's called breathing. You're gonna do it a lot, and nobody knows exactly how much. So enjoy it. Pay attention. Take brain pictures. Because amazing things will happen every day. You're gonna do so much, but it's not about what you do. It's about who you are. And you're awesome. You're made that way. You're made from love, to be loved, to spread love. Love is always louder, no matter what. Even if hate has a bullhorn, love is louder. So let your life be loud. Let's shout to the world. Things can be better. It's okay about all the mess ups. Corn dog drool. Sorry, I'm just keep bringing that up. I don't think I told you this yet. We're really glad you're here. We don't say that enough to each other here because, well, life gets busy. You're gonna be important and you're gonna do a lot. And you're gonna smell great, but don't get too busy. Remember to let everybody know you're glad they're here. You don't have to remember all this right now. You're gonna need a pep talk sometimes, and that's okay. For now, remember this. You're awake, you're awesome, live like it.
Cold feet, don't fail me now. So much left to do. If I should run 10,000 miles home, would you be there? Just a taste of things to come. I still smile, but I don't want to die alone. I don't want to die alone. Way before my time. keep calm and carry on. No worse for the wear. I don't want to die alone. I don't want to die alone. Way before my time. Is it any wonder all this empty air? I'm drowning in the laughter way before my time has come.
Do you understand? You do them as other parts of yourself.
No, I don't.
We're still children.
No, I don't.
It's true.
In 1976, millions of Americans watched Sybil, a TV movie based on a blockbuster book of the same name.
Sybil really introduced the country to the notion that someone could have multiple personalities.
Said to have 16 distinct personalities, Sybil had a story that was emotional and terrifying.
It's me.
How did you figure out that you had this multiple personality disorder?
So how did a rarely diagnosed psychological disorder turn into a cultural phenomenon?
Sometimes the media is the brilliant hysteric in the mix, and that can be the problem.
In the early 1950s, two doctors stunned the public with a patient they called Eve. Eve was a housewife from Georgia who appeared to have 3 distinct personalities.
Could I speak with Eve Black, ma'am? Eve Black?
No psychiatrist in the United States in 1954 was unaware of this case,
including Dr. Cornelia Wilbur and a patient she was treating in the fall of 1954 named Shirley Mason, who would later become known as Sybil. At the time, Mason was a graduate student living in New York, but she had severe emotional problems that had long seemed to be taking over her life. Dr. David Spiegel's father would see Mason when Dr. Wilbur was on vacation.
What we know is there was something seriously wrong. She didn't have a normal life despite being so intelligent.
Mason had met Dr. Wilbur 9 years earlier in Omaha, Nebraska. Even then, Dr. Wilbur had been interested in multiple personality disorder.
and she even recommended that Shirley read a classic book about multiple personality.
Then, several months after their therapy began in New York, Mason arrived at Wilbur's office acting different.
She came in seeming very little girlish, and she said something like, "Hi, I'm Peggy."
Dr. Spiegel remembers that his father doubted she had multiple personalities, and that was nearly 60 years ago.
He referred to her as a brilliant hysteric. He felt that Dr. Wilbur tended to pressure her to exaggerate on the dissociation she already had. So she was capable of it. She was very hypnotizable.
Dr. Wilbur died in 1992, leaving Mason $25,000 in her will. Not long before Mason's death, 6 years later, she told a friend that every word in the book was true.
I think it's important to look back at Sybil because it's important to understand which stories are true and which are false. Because in some cases, like this one, they're not just stories. I mean, they actually end up affecting the law, affecting mental health, affecting political decisions. And the stuff that sounds the most dramatic and yet the most credible at the same time is probably the most dangerous.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. No, you keep them away from me. I will do it. He doesn't care.
Sybil?
I hate Sybil. I hate her.
Who are you?
I can do anything. I want to. I can do anything. I can walk on the chair if I take my shoes off. Like that, and I can walk on the chair like that, and like that. You can stop moving. I have to get out. No.
I'm so awfully ashamed, Doctor.
It's all right.
I've always been like this. Always. And I used to think that everybody was like this. That they would just naturally wake up and be someplace else or a whole lot older or wearing another dress. Once I woke up and I was 2 years older.
I have to get out. No. You won't let me out. You won't let me have any peace. You leave me alone and it hurts, and you don't leave me alone, it hurts.
Who are you talking to?
Emma. Oh, please, I have to get you. Get out.
Let's just go downstairs, we'll get in the taxi, and then you'll be out.
No, she's there. She's there. The people are there. I don't want to see them. I don't want to feel them.
Where is Sybil?
I don't want to.
Where is Sybil?
I wouldn't hurt anyone either. Not by word, no deed. I don't even like to hurt someone's feelings. You know, if someone calls me Sybil by mistake, do you know what I do? I look in their face and I say, yes, or we, you're speaking to me? Because it hurts to be embarrassed. Do you know? Who does those drawings?
You do. Well, but you do them as other people. Do you understand? You do them as other parts of yourself.
No, I don't.
We're still children.
No, I don't.
It's true.
No, it's not.
Sybil, you've got to understand, it is true.
This is not possible.
They all have names, and they come here, and they protect you. They keep your appointments, and they're the ones who pour out this information that you're afraid to face. You've got to understand.
No, it's not true.
It's true.
It's not true. No, it's not. No, it's not true.
Sybil, everything you care about survives in those parts of you that your mother wasn't able to reach. Your music, your painting, even your ability to love, they survive there.
Don't you dare tell. Next worst thing to be tell, and I'll fix it so you ain't got nothing to tell.
It's my mother's voice.
That's not your mother's voice. That's you imitating your... Sybil? Sybil!
How much is too much? A national study is giving us a closer look at the disturbing effects when children are exposed to screens for too long.
KPI X5 Susie Steimel joins us with how the tech industry is introducing something that can actually help parents with this. Susie?
Well, that's right, Alan and Veronica. This is something that is confirmation for many of us. We've been waiting to hear something like this. You might have guessed that increased screen time can impact children's development. And this report comes on the heels of tech companies telling customers to limit that.
Angela Soju's daughter Natalie is about to turn 5 months old and is too young to be looking at a phone or a tablet. But Angela is already trying to figure out how much screen time is okay.
I would like to stall for as long as possible because I could kind of sense that addiction.
The impact screen time has on development is a concept that, too, is in its infancy. 60 Minutes profiled researchers at the National Institute of Health who found proof that increased screen time is impacting brain development. The NIH revealed these brain scans of 9 and 10-year-olds. The red charts show premature thinning of the cortex in children who spend a lot of time looking at screens. The cortex processes information from the 5 senses.
Should parents be concerned by that?
We don't know if it's being caused by the screen time. We don't know yet if it's a bad thing.
The NIH also found children who have more than 2 hours of screen time a day scored lower on thinking and language testing.
What do these studies tell us? Be aware. Be mindful.
Connie Guglielmo, the editor-in-chief of CNET, says most people working in tech limit the amount of screen time their children are exposed to, herself included. She says Apple's new screen time report that allows you to set limits for your children is an important step for the industry.
I think that there is a recognition from the makers of these successful devices that perhaps there are issues with too much screen time.
For parents like Angela who have children now and are wondering how much is too much, Connie says, go with your gut.
But don't abdicate parenting to any device, including a smartphone or tablet.
So this report also showed, and we all were saying we found this striking, that toddlers who were given a toy and then asked to give that toy back to a researcher return the toy 60% of the time. But when that toy was swapped with an iPad that had an interactive app on it, the toddlers were 15% less likely to give the technology back.
It's eye-opening. Yeah.
It is.
Dopamine hit.
My 5-year-old, I know, I can attest to that. It's really scary.
I know, they love it. Hard to give it up.
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last, love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. But in the way that I stare, there's no one else to compare. The sight of you leaves me weak. There are no words left to speak. Girl, if you feel like I feel, please let me know that it's real. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. I love you, baby, and if it's quite alright, I need you, baby, to warm the lonely nights. Girl, let me love you. Ooh, trust in me when I say, oh, just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. I love you, baby, and if it's quite alright, I need you, baby, to warm the lonely nights. Girl, let me love you. Ooh, trust in me when I say, oh, pretty baby, don't bring me down, I pray. No, pretty baby, oh, that I found you, stay. Girl, let me love you. Oh, let me love you. Okay,
If you awaken from this illusion and you understand that black implies white, self implies other, life implies death, or shall I say, death implies life, you can feel yourself not as a stranger in the world, not as something here on probation, not as something that has arrived here by fluke, but you can begin to feel your own existence as absolutely fundamental. I'm not trying to sell you on this idea in the sense of converting you to it. I want you to play with it. I want you to think of its possibilities. I'm not trying to prove it. I'm just putting it forward as a possibility of life to think about. So then, let's suppose that you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream. And that you could, for example, have the power within one night to dream 75 years of time, or any length of time you wanted to have. And you would naturally, as you began on this adventure of dreams, you would fulfill all your wishes. You would have every kind of pleasure you could conceive. And after several nights of 75 years of total pleasure each, you would say, well, that was pretty great. But now let's have a surprise. Let's have a dream which isn't under control. Well, something is going to happen to me that I don't know what it's going to be. And you would dig that and come out of that and say, wow, that was a close shave, wasn't it? Then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further out gambles as to what you would dream. And finally, you would dream where you are now. You would dream the dream of living the life that you are actually living today. That would be within the infinite multiplicity of choices you would have, of playing that you weren't God. Because the whole nature of the Godhead, according to this idea, is to play that he's not. So in this idea then, everybody is fundamentally the ultimate reality. Not God in a politically kingly sense, but God in the sense of being the self, the deep down basic whatever there is. And you're all that, only you're pretending you're not.
said I don't wanna die. I sometimes wish I'd never been born at all.
Every moment spent bent over work, not cutting corners, doing things with care, is protection, is the bridge to carry us through the darkness. For to do something with care is the closest thing to a feeling of love that can be found. It is all I know. This is protection. This is the narrow bridge. Then the hand reaches out for the drink, for the drug, and it grabs the claw instead. And you protest, and you start to clean, and you clean the corners like they've never been cleaned. The protection is found, and the cape of grace moves softly down about the shoulders, drawing a safety line out to love.
Well, I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall and the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Maybe there is a God above, but all I've ever learned from love was how to shoot somebody who outdrew you. And it's not a cry that you hear at night. It's not somebody who's seen the light. It's a cold and it's a broken heart.